Yes, question. 100%. Do it. The amount of times where I have clients who go live and they go, everyone asks me all the time X, Y, Z, and I'm like, really? Really? But do it. It's just a confidence thing. It just helps you coming in prepared helps you be confident, and it actually positions you as that authority. Because if you come in and you say, here's one I prepared earlier in another way, like I saw this question this week, I was asked this question this week, and I want to address it for you guys. It just positions you as somebody who knows who they're talking about, and you're not stuffing around with people's time. People value their time. They don't. I don't want to see you sit there for 3 minutes and twiddle your thumbs. You know what I mean? So live stream is really, really, really important. And I wish I could just talk about social media all day, because I would have you here all week, because there's so much. But we need to be live streaming. Even if you don't want to do produced video, live streaming is a great way to promote other things. Okay, next. So question for engagement. So typically I'll go back through my video and I'll think about questions that might come up. I'll think about questions that I want people to answer, and then I can use that question. I can use it in my actual YouTube video that I put up, and we'll touch on that later, so don't worry too much about that. But I can put up a picture, that picture I was talking about before even, or another screenshot, and then talk about that question in the comments. So what do I mean by that? I might pull out, if there's not an obvious question that comes to me, typically I pull out one of my dot points that I touch on in the video, and then I talk about that. I position it as a question, and I'll talk about that. So one of the things I might hit in that content marketing video is how often should I post? How often should I create a video, right? And I might hit 3 other points in that video, but I'll just pull that one out. And it's just a way for you to keep perpetual content. Because if you're struggling one day, just go back to an old video and pull out one of those points and elaborate on that, because we all can elaborate so much more than we think we can, just by pulling out one thing and going into detail on it. So the next thing is the video nuggets. So I understand that not everyone has the ability to video edit, but if you have a video, it's very cheap to get it done through Fiverr, Upwork, any of those things. But I would encourage you to chop it down into the video nuggets. So similar to what I just said about the question for engagement, maybe I pull out just that one piece that I touched on in the video about, I don't know, I can't remember the question I just said. But whatever that question is, I pulled that one nugget out, and it's a 75-second video. And then I can use that in other places. It's snackable content. It means that people aren't hanging around for 5 minutes hearing me do my other thing. And it's just one of those just little trust builders, right? So that's typically what I do. I create an anchor piece of content, and I create content out of that. Now you have to fill in the gaps, because that's not going to get you everywhere. But you can put that on your different platforms. You can put that on Facebook. You can put that on Instagram. You can put that on LinkedIn. You can put that on Twitter. Any Twitter users in the house? Okay, just me and you. But you can pretty much put it everywhere, and that's the beauty of creating one big piece of content and pulling out little pieces of content. Okay, so now you guys are going to create. So I've got a link for you, because I've actually got a digital calendar for you to start with. Yes. Mm-hmm. What industry are you in? I wouldn't. I think Twitter lends itself to tech, to social in the broadest kind of context. It lends itself to, there's people on it. Wait, are you international? Okay. You could start building an audience there, but I would just focus on Facebook and Instagram even. LinkedIn. LinkedIn. High stress people are on LinkedIn. They're probably smoking and want to stop. So don't Twitter's a funny beast, and it's also very journalistic news related. So there's a few industries that really do well out of it. I used to have a client that just solely did Twitter, but I don't think everyone should be on it. No, I think that there's. It's not saying you shouldn't be on it, but there's more important platforms that you could get better traction with. Yeah, because it is content heavy, so it is a big job. Yeah. Okay. So I've got this for those of you with a computer. It looks like not a lot of you have computers today. So really, I can just pull it up for you so you can see. So you can just write it down because that's probably the best thing. What we're going to do, oh gosh, hang on. Where? Oh, okay. All right. You know why? Because I didn't... That's weird. No, yeah, totally. It was... Oh, okay. Got it. People at 11 Lights Media. You're not 11 Lights Media. Here we go. Let's go for... Oh, gosh. I'll make you a bit.ly link real quick. Real time. Basically, it's not hard. You can just write it down. Most of you have pen and paper anyway, to be fair. So I'll do the bit.ly link while you're working. But all it is, don't even worry too much about this side because that's like for hardcore people. I would just look at how often do you want to put out content. Some of you might even just be Monday to Friday. Some of you it might be 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Decide on your ability at this point, and then I want you to start filling this out, and I want you to do it according to, and I can flick back to it, according to the my template of what I do, just to help you. It's just a starting point. So I want you to factor in video there because I really do believe that doing video or sound is really important in this day and age. I really don't think you can get away from it. I don't think you can only just blog. That might be your anchor piece of content. You need to figure out a way to get that out in a different format as well. So, so I want you to factor in video. Just write it in even if you're not ready for it because it's just going to help you. And then I'm sure there's going to be other questions that come up about like what other content can we put in there, and that really gets down to the detail, the nitty-gritty, like quote posts versus questions versus polls versus this or that. And so I'm happy to answer those questions as well, but I just want you guys to start. Do you guys want me to stay on that or flick back to the other one? Who wants me to flick back to the lightning one? No one? I'll just stay there then. So I've just allowed a little bit of time. It's just so that you guys are doing something super practical for yourself. So I am available if anyone has any specific questions. And I'll answer it with the mic just so that it can help other people if they have the same question. But this is what this time is for. So you just got 5 minutes to just start filling it out. Oh, it's not. I need to do a new one because it wasn't. Yeah. Yes, you can ask a question while I do this. Mhm. 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 Yep. Actually, no, I'm on the wrong thing. Yep. That's the link. It should work now. Just give us a yell if it doesn't. So, yeah. So big picture, it's a lead generation strategy content. But it's one of those things, it's as you said, it's one of those things where it starts small but it gets exponential. And so the longer that you are creating content and putting out things of value, I mean, quality shouldn't even be a question anymore. Like people say, oh, make sure it's quality, not quantity, or quality and quantity. And I'm just like, quality should just be given. Like we're in business. We need to make sure everything we put out is quality. It doesn't mean it has to be like super Apple professional, you know what I mean? It just means that the value you're giving is quality. So if you know what you're talking about, if you can help someone stop smoking, I'm sure there's a lot of steps up until that point that you can help them out with, and that's going to be quality information, right? But it is a long-term strategy, and it's all about so the blogging thing, which is video as well, because you can put video on your website, it's about once people get to your websites, keeping them there and giving them an option to sign up to your email or somewhere where you can nurture that relationship. And that's what social media is all about. It's nurturing that relationship and getting them to trust you, trust the brand, trust the product, and finding ways to actually make that happen, because it makes that path to purchase a lot shorter. Yeah. Yeah, so that's like a piece of the pie. So, I mean, you probably have your tactics that are working at the moment, and that could be offline stuff, right? You know, for a lot of people in the service industry, sales happen in person, so networking is really valuable. I'm not saying do this over something else. I'm saying add this to your arsenal, because it becomes one of your marketing streams that brings in clients. And then over time, when you start to see, okay, every year I sell, and I don't know, what's your product? A program. So every year I'm selling 15 programs from my website. Okay, maybe that's not enough, but how do we sell more? How do we get people to come back? How do we nurture that relationship? Because ultimately what we're doing is trying to diversify, right? Because if you only have one lead generation stream and something happens to that, you're screwed. So we need to make sure that we have multiple streams. And in terms of like what you're saying about the olden days, you know, like in the real olden days, there was only ever one grocer. There was only ever one newspaper outlet. There was only ever one set of movies. And now we've so much competition because we all have access to the internet. And so it becomes a content game. And I'll say this as well, something that I am seeing in the industry is that, and again, quality matters. It so matters. It's just end of story, full stop. Quantity will still win right now. That will change, and we'll have to get more creative and do things differently and pivot again. But right now, quantity is a determining factor of who is seen, who is remembered, who is engaged with, and therefore who is purchased with. So anything that people buy from, there's an element of relationship that's established there. Like even my local Woolworths at home, the relationship is that I go past it every day, so I see it, so I trust it. But it's also that element of convenience, which actually matters in that scenario. Convenience doesn't so much matter in my business, but we all have our own differentiating factors that make a difference. This is just one arm that we need to be capitalizing on. But I would say if you don't do it, I think that it's a really big piece of that pie that will be detrimental to your business as we move forward into VR, AR, a world that lives in a content-created world. Yes. Well, that's the other thing. That's actually one thing I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't touch on. For anyone who's still bootstrapping or doesn't get ads or doesn't have budget for ads yet or anything like that, content, again, it's it's slower, but it's something that we can all do for free. And if we're bootstrapping, typically we all have time on our hands. Whether or not we waste it is up to us, but we typically have the time to invest in creating content. So it's not something to turn your nose up at if you have the time to do it, because it's free. Everything, all social media is free. The important thing to remember is once they're on social media, you need to get those people onto your email list or onto something that you own, because you don't own social media. So, but that's a whole other thing, right? So, I have a video to talk about next, but my concern is that we're just going to run out of time. So, does anyone have any other questions about content calendars or anything? Yep. Mm-hmm. I think it depends. I think it depends how far away. I had this conversation with someone the other day, because she, yesterday at the airport actually, because she's about to finish a counselling degree, and I told her to start creating content now. And she said, "Oh, but what if someone wants to hire me and I can't?" I said, "Well, just send them to someone who can." Like, the reality is if it's a product, yeah? If it's superior, it's an app, right? If it's superior, you can use that time to build momentum. Yes, if you take too long, the curve will come back down. So if there's 2 years until it's out, doesn't mean you can't create content. I would just be really strategic about when you put it out and what you put out, because you don't want to get people all super excited only to let them down. Tell them you're taking them on a date and never take them. Yeah. So yes, that's a time sensitive thing, I think. Anyone else? Yeah. It's all right. Mm-hmm. 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 You're talking about a personal page on Facebook, like your actual, like, this is me, I'm Sarah. Yeah, 100%. My view on that is because we really ramped up into this professional era where you've got to have all the bells and whistles for people to trust you, and that's just not the case anymore. The case now is that everyone wants authenticity. So brands who are putting a face on the front of their company you've got to take the big Goliaths out of it. You can't think of Apple, you can't think of Nike, you just can't. You have to think about businesses that are on their way up, right? Businesses in our playing field, that kind of thing. The businesses that are winning are the businesses with a face. Not every single one. I'm not saying it's like a blanket rule, but for the most part, when we're trying to get traction, people buy from people. They want the authenticity. We also, the last 10 years has been a real ramp up to automation, which is great. Automation is so good for processes and business processes. And now we've tipped that scales going into a place where we're actually trying to automate authenticity and conversation. And I'm not even saying that that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is people know that because they're not stupid and because they live on the internet. And so we're coming to a place where, like, businesses doing this, really trying to find that balance between how much do we give people, our people, and how much do we give them just efficiency, right? And then you've also got the other side of the coin where these particularly telecommunications and companies like that have outsourced overseas, and there's there can be that customer service language barrier frustration there where, and I've heard it said a number of times, and I know it sounds really crass, but someone in Australia will say, I just want to talk to an Australian, which sounds terrible, I know, but when they get, when I ring the bank now and stuff like that, I've noticed that there's virtually no outsourcing anymore, at least from my bank. And so there is something comforting feeling like you're not being just put through a process, because that's no one's upset that the person's from another country. They're upset that they're going, that person only has so much power that if I'm upset, they won't escalate me properly. I'm actually just put into a bank of a process. I'm not talking to the manager. I don't get escalated to someone who can actually solve my problem, right? And so we have to balance that, but that's why authenticity is winning. That's why faces are winning. That's why when you DM the CEO of whatever company or, someone who works for someone that you value. So like I've had a number of conversations with people who work on Gary Vee's team. And that's huge for me. Like that makes me buy into him like even more, because he's actually empowering his team to be like that, and they're not all becoming stuck up. I don't need to talk to you because I'm on camera all the time and I'm seen with Gary Vee, right? And so that's what you need to figure out. So you're exactly right. But the only thing that I will just touch on that personal page thing for a second. I never recommend that people do it that way. I mean, if it ends up going that way and someone just messages you on your personal page, it's because you've friended them, but you are capped at 5,000 friends, so depending on your business, that can become a problem. But secondly, I think it's much... I thrive on challenges and problem solving, so there's something sexy to me about being on a Facebook page that has 1% reach and I get 60% reach. I'm like, yeah, I did it. I broke the algorithm. Like I nailed this one. And I reached, yes, I didn't reach 100% of people, but I reached enough that I know that piece of content worked. And you've got to be careful on your personal Facebook page. If you start going, this is really working for me, and you just talk business on there all the time, you're going to really annoy your friends and family. And I see that I really get annoyed at marketers who do it, because I'm like, I would never trust you with my marketing purely because you can't even play by the rules. Oh, yeah, you show personal content. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, on that's really interesting. I have a video marketing company as one of my clients. They're actually here in Sydney, and they're very corporate. They work with very corporate brands like Microsoft, LinkedIn, those kind of brands. And it's so interesting. I sat down with her earlier in the week and I took her through her insights on Facebook. And I said, have a look at these couple of posts where I've done them as if she's written them, with her photo on it, like really beautiful photos, like professional ones, but she's not posing against a white wall. She's like literally sitting in front of Sydney Harbour, like the Opera House, and she looks beautiful, but she looks casual. And I've written it as if she's had that thought and just written it down. And it was like a longer form post. And I did a couple of them in different ways. By far outdid every other piece of content we've been putting out. By far. And I said to her, we need to be doing more of this. People want to see your face. They want to trust you. They want to connect with you because you're the boss. And it just causes people to engage. Like even the photo was so pretty, people liked it, and it just causes the content to just go that little bit further, which means someone else might see you and they might come along and start engaging with you and trust you, and they see their friends like you as well, right? And so they go, oh, so-and-so likes them. Maybe I'll have a look at them. So, yeah, it's definitely something to put into your marketing mix if you are a professional corporate brand. It doesn't have to be every single thing. Like I really flip between that and my business. Like I'm always experimenting. Like my brand is like, in many ways, there are things that are consistent about my brand because they're me. But in other ways, like I'm always just testing. So like, I'm not always the best example for people, but I really do flip between that because I'm 11 Lights Media with a logo, but I'm Sarah. And people buy into me way more than they buy into the name of my business. 100% more. No worries. So we've only got a couple of minutes left. So if you've got any more questions, ask them now, because next session is going to be all about YouTube. It's going to be of huge value. We're going to research. You're going to know how to research for any content you want. So if you have anything else, just let me know now. Otherwise, I think Stephen's going to come up and wrap it up, and then we'll have a break, I think. Is that right? And then... Yes. Yes. Okay. I actually get this question a lot. I'm not making that one up. I do. So YouTube and Vimeo are essentially the same things. They're there to house your content, right? The thing with YouTube is that it's a search platform and it's owned by Google, and that's where the power in it is. So Vimeo is more for those corporate videos that you might have on your website, that you just want a cleaner look, you don't want the big YouTube play button. They sort of lend themselves more to those really finished, polished pieces. But if you're creating just content creation pieces for like blogs, vlogs, that kind of thing, I would put them on YouTube over Vimeo. Whereas I might put a really high-end case study or even my about video or my welcome video, I might put that on Vimeo. But the only thing with that is I think you do get to a certain point where you have to pay for it as well. So it's not a fully free platform.